everyone, and welcome to Walford Weekly, your weekly EastEnders podcast, where we will be discussing the episodes that were broadcast on the BBC between Monday the 31st of May to Friday the 4th of June. As you can see on the screen next to me, I am joined yet again by Rob. Hello, Rob.
Rob! Hi! Hello, Alex. How are you this week?
I'm very well, thank you. Yes, very, very well. I need a bit of slapping waking up, I think. But I'm on the coffee, so in about 20 minutes' time, it'll kick in, as everyone now knows is the time frame for me to have my hyper fit.
It's more than that, though, isn't it? You go off the planet once the caffeine hits you. I think it's because your body is just obviously so pure and innocent. A little bit of caffeine sends you absolutely off your nut. It's great. It goes into the realms of fantasy after a while. The stuff that you could see in the outtakes, my God.
It's the only thing that gets me through the day, quite frankly. Siri's decided to turn up too while we're talking, so I'm just going to turn him off. Hang on a moment. There we go. I didn't even call him over. He just decided to join in. Maybe we should have a Walford Weekly one week with Siri joining in.
What's your opinion, Siri?
Don't say that name. It will just pop up again. Rob, I'm very curious to know if you've finally gotten around, because we've talked about this off the camera and off the recordings, but now I feel like shaming you because I want to know, have you gotten around to watching Line of Duty yet? This crime writer, this guy who writes stories all about like murder mysteries, hasn't watched a single episode of Line of Duty. And as anyone who follows us on Twitter or Instagram, at Walford Weekly if you'd like to join in, knows that we absolutely adore Line of Duty on the Walford Weekly podcast. But Rob, you're the odd one out.
Always. That's the way I live my life. If anything, what I have done is the writer, I think he's called Jeb Mercurio, has started an online screenwriting course that I've bought and I'm doing at the moment. So that's something. I am planning on watching Line of Duty. It is on my to be watched list because the thing is, I'm still seeing like the odd little tweet about like who H is and all of this sort of thing. So I'm waiting for that all to die down so that I forget who it is and then I can start watching it. That's the plan because then I won't be spoiled. So there's methods.
Oh, so you know who H is? You've been.
Well, I don't know his name.
You've been spoiled then,
I know. Yeah, but I've seen a picture of him. But all I need to do is sort of just like leave it a while, and then I will just completely forget. Genuinely, I will completely forget, and then I'll start watching it. And then apparently the show is so good and twisty, and it will just distract me from everything. So I am looking forward to it. It is on the to do list, but it's not happened yet, Alex. All right, it's not happened yet. You're not the first person to nag me about it. You won't be the last.
Well, luckily for us, you have watched EastEnders this week, and you've been keeping up to date with that. So we can discuss that this week. So the Line of Duty podcast, maybe not yet. Yeah. I mean, I don't know about you, but I fancy just jumping straight in to the Mila and Kioni story once more. This week, a bit less about obviously why Kioni or why Mila was protecting Kioni, and more about that. It was the reveal to Kioni why she was being protected by Mila and subsequently running away. And now the police and social services have got a bit more involved with it. Thanks to Kathy. No, it wasn't thanks to Kathy. It was Iqra who reported them. But Kathy took the fall, which I thought was really sweet of Kathy, actually, because Kathy didn't have to.
Because Kathy's just, pride happy. She wants to keep all the gay relationships in the square happy and going. So Iqra is the one that rang the police this week, and Kathy is sort of keeping up the subterfuge, if you will, that she was the one that kept it going. What do we think of? Because it seems like they've started this story. It's quite heavy subject, and now is it winding down again? Now is that what's happening, or do you think it's?
Yeah. I wondered that too, and I'm not going to lie, it worried me because there's been so much criticism leading up to the story of they're not going to do it the justice it deserves, they're not going to go deep enough into it that it needed to be. And this week, like I said at the top of us talking about it, it felt like they've completely stopped talking about it. And now it's just a story about the family kind of falling apart a little bit, and it seems like such a wasted opportunity because it has been publicized so heavily that this is the first time a soap has done anything like this. It's you know, it's the first it's been touched story like this, and I don't want to say the fans were right. They didn't do what they should have done with it. Do you feel like it's winding down too, I take it?
I feel like it's winding down, but then at the same time, I also sort of think, well, we've had they've shown us conversations where they've explained to us in as graphic a terms as they can go into, given the sort of time slot that the show's in, like what's involved. In some ways, they've maybe stepped the toe over that sort of line of like the information that we were given about it. So in some ways, it's kind of like clearly the aim of it was for Kioni not to have this procedure done, and the mum has now been, you know, arrested and all that sort of thing. So on the other side of things, you're sort of like, well, to be fair, how much more was there to discuss compared to, you know, from where the story started, how much more is there to do? It will be interesting to sort of, but there were some really nice conversations between Mila and her mum, who's a really good actress, by the way, and it'll be interesting to sort of see sort of the aftermath. And I mean, it's one of those things that let's just hope that they never forget about it. That it's you know, I mean, like sometimes they'll throw an issue at a character and then like they'll forget that they gave that character that story. Whereas this is something that really genuinely would quite heavily affect Mila for her entire life. So, you know, and I remember being surprised last week when it was sort of revealed that her and Iqra haven't actually slept together because of this very reason. So that's something else that they sort of need to go forward exploring, like how does somebody who's had to have this procedure done to them then try and go on and have like a normal sex life. And, you know, she's talked about infections and how she's in pain quite a lot of the time. You know, if she's in pain a lot of the time, then we kind of need, if they're saying that, then we kind of need to see that going forward, whether it's connected to whatever Mila happens to be doing at the time or not. So I don't know, I think it's going to be more, I think it's maybe a bit unfair to say that they've done it badly just yet, because I think, you know, they've done the topic with what they can, but I suppose it's what they do in the future that sort of will tell us how they've done it.
I think you're right, actually. Yeah, I've been up to that point, especially for last Friday's episode, not Friday just gone, the Friday before. That was such a phenomenal episode to delve into it, discuss it, make it a talking point. And I think it did make it a talking point. And as you say, I think up to that week, it was done so well. And it just felt like, but then I suppose you're right. If with the story like this, how much more could they have explored right now? There's more that can be explored further down the lane, I suppose. And that's something that hopefully, if not forgotten, it can be then delved into a bit more deeply. I mean, yeah, you saying about how much can they say in the time slot that they have? You're right. It's a tricky one because, again, you know, you don't want to upset the viewers. But I think this is a talking point where I would rather that they push the boundaries a little bit and make people feel uncomfortable than kind of keep it, you know, safe. And like I say, not the Friday just gone, but the last Friday episode, they did push the boundaries out. And I said that last week on the podcast, and I appreciated that because it helped me explore it a little bit more. But it's again, it's interesting seeing how Mila wants to break the chain, because we found out also her mum had it. And it's obvious that it seemed obvious afterwards. Like, of course her mum would have had it. But at the time, I never really thought about it. And it's interesting that's another dynamic. It's interesting that why did Mila's mum not want to stop it? But then it's the family issue, isn't it? It's being ostracized, which again, she talked very at length about with Mila, with Kathy. And Mila's the one, I think, because Mila's sexuality was that she was gay, it was because with that as well, she was able to then stand back and get out of that kind of loop and then want to save her sister as well. It's a really interesting story.
It is an interesting story. And I think it's mad to think that, you know, Mila's mum is claiming that without this procedure, Kioni is at risk of being ostracised. Kind of like, why is this sort of procedure like something that's really commonly known within that community? You know, sort of like it's sort of shouted loud and proud that Kioni would have had this thing done to her, and that Mila's had it done to her, and that the mum's had it done to her. That's crazy. Like, so I think I think up to now it's going well, the story, as well as it can be, you know, given, because let's be honest, how graphic can you show? It's an important issue to cover. But like I say, how graphic can you really go in a story like this? They're not about to show. How old's Kioni, like 12 or something? They're not about to show a 12-year-old going through this procedure. So the best thing that they can do is show, a close call and all that sort of thing. And then maybe from here we'll explore... Because Mila actually still seems to be somewhat defensive of her mum. And sort of sticking up for her and saying she's not a bad person, she's not a monster, whereas Kathy and Iqra are ready to see her hang. So it's going to be interesting to sort of see... sort of see maybe if their relationship can build up again, and then of course dealing with the see whether Iqra ever gets found out for being the one that that was a grass, because you know how grasses go in EastEnders.
Yeah, we don't like grasses or EastEnders. No. I think it'll be a shame if Mila and Iqra split up, because I actually love the idea of this little family of Mila, Iqra, and Kioni all living in Ikra's house, the old, Masood's old house. I like the idea of that, and it'd be nice to have a lesbian couple bringing up a child as well. Because again, I can't think of a time in EastEnders where there's been a gay couple bringing up a child.
Well, I don't think any soaps done
and EastEnders seems to be. Oh, really? Well, so again, a first for a soap.
Sure
Go on, EastEnders.
You know what Hollyoaks is like? They probably did it in 1980 or something stupid like that. But do you know what I mean? Yeah. I don't think it like any of the sort of big three. I don't think any of the big three has sort of been done. So EastEnders is the sort of soap that should be pushing those sort of things forward. So power to the people, absolutely.
Because I think Iqra and Mila are quite a sturdy couple as well. I mean, they don't. This is a very extreme situation. Yeah, and this is a very extreme situation they've been put into. And I mean, I would like to see them as a unit, as a family, with Kioni. I just love the idea of that, and I love that it will be introducing yet another younger character into the soap. So then there's Amy, there's Bailey, there's Kioni. There's so many young characters, and I cannot wait for them all to get together and have a scene and a storyline. All the child cast together, because there is a lot of them now.
There's a lot of young cast now that are in it. Yeah, so it's going to be interesting to see, given them getting a little bit older, it's going to be interesting. Well, because let's be fair, if all goes well, this is our next generation of characters, that are all sort of growing up. So we'll see. So these are the people that we are hopefully going to be watching in 10, 20 years' time. So let's. This is a good start for us. Let's hope.
As you say, if all goes well, which makes me give a little advertisement that if you stay on to the end of the show, we are going to be discussing a certain news story that came out this week of a certain cancellation and what it could mean for the soap world, not just EastEnders, for the soap world as a whole. But Rob's face basically says it all. But let's talk about something a little bit more, more saucy, and which is Sharon. And she's on her second week in the gym. It's all going very well at the gym, and she's got clients coming out of her ears.
Who knew that EastEnders had this many? That Walford had this many gym. People that wanted to get fit and all that sort of thing. She's fallen on her feet as usual, as our Shazza.
Yeah,
she knows her business.
Falling on her pretty high-heeled feet, which are attached to her wonderful, beautiful legs. The main thing, though, is that when Linda was getting her free workout with Nancy this week, as Nancy was apologising to her for being a bit rude because Linda had flushed away her kale and spinach. It sounded god awful. Green tea drink that she needs to.
Not even you would consume that sort of thing.
That's right. Not even I would drink it. So that tells you a lot. Nancy wanted to try out.
See, the thought of it, the very thought of it is making you choke with disgust.
I just can't. I just cannot.
No, just cannot.
Nancy wanted to try out her new workout routine with her mum. And Linda was like, yeah, okay, I'll do it. I'll build a bridge by doing it. And got basically as far as a couple of minutes in, started doing the rowing workout and passed out.
That's what I do. Just faint. That's what I can relate. I can relate. That's what I do. It's exactly what I do. 2 minutes on an exercise bike, on the floor. Too right. Pregnant or not, couldn't cope with it.
Are you heavily pregnant, Rob? That's the main thing.
I mean, not that I know of. Immaculate conception, is that a thing still? I don't know, but yeah. I think it was we got a nice little effect this week. I'm not going to overgo about it. It's got to the point now where I'm sitting there watching, going, yeah, because it's apparently impossible for anyone to faint in EastEnders these days. Just normally, everything has to go blurry around them. Sound has to be distorted, just so we know that they're about to faint. The fact that they then faint is not evidence enough that they're feeling unwell. That's not enough. We could still have doubts. The world has to go a bit crazy around them before we go, oh, Linda's not well. But yeah, that happens.
It's impossible for them to do an everyday chore, to be fair. Like boil the kettle. I'm just waiting for the slow motion for that. Like, click.
I know. But yes, Linda tells Nancy about the baby this week, little baby bean that being on its way. How did you...
A Branning bean.
A Branning bean, yes. How did you think that Nancy was going to react to the news compared to how she did?
I mean, I don't think I had a thought of how she would react, to be honest with you. I was kind of winging the way I was watching it on that day, wondering. I mean, she reacted really positively about it, didn't she? And did she find out, though, that it wasn't Mick's? I forget if Linda told her the whole news or not.
I think so. Yeah, I think she did. If not, then that's to come. But no, I think that because the thing is, the kids are because they were talking about no, she did. I remember now because Linda said, you mean your dad were going through some problems and all of that sort of thing. So yeah, she does know.
That's right.
Because I for some reason I'd assumed that when Linda and Mick sort of went around, well, effectively the world to tell all the kids about what had been going on. I assumed that like the whole story had been told, including Linda's affair and Mick's mental health and everything. So it didn't. I was kind of surprised. I think that maybe that's why Nancy didn't kind of overreact. So what I was expecting, in all honesty, was for them to slowly start building bridges. Okay, they're getting on again now. Oh, another secret's come out. Oh, they're not going to talk again. So I'm actually glad that sort of the Carters, to be fair, are slowly sort of getting to be a stronger family unit again, which is nice to see, because I think that's when they work best, the Carters. The whole point of the Carters is that they're a strong family that are there for each other. # no more secrets. So we'll see how they get on in the coming weeks. I think the thing is, Linda is worried now about how Mick is going to take this moving forwards as she becomes more pregnant.
Yeah, that's the thing that I spotted the most, is that this week Mick seemed a lot less enthralled by the idea of it. Like, he was never like over excited about it, but he seemed a bit like he wasn't as happy about it as he first had initially shown. And and he didn't really want to show it to Linda, but at the same time he wasn't hiding it very well. It was a strange one, because I think Linda is properly oblivious to how Mick is feeling, and just thinks that they've just made this decision on the stairs a couple of weeks ago that she needs his help. He's there to help her. They're going to work together, and they're going to stay together as this very strong couple. But I think this is still something that's going to tear Mick apart inside. And as you say, # no more secrets doesn't normally apply to the Carters very well. And so Mick won't basically be very open about it and just let it fester and fester and fester until one day they just have this eruptive moment together, which no doubt will be probably around about the time of maternity leave for Linda. So
and then Linda will have to go and see Elaine and everything, and then Linda's gone for 6 or 9 months. So yeah, this sort of harmonious little period I think is not to last much longer. I don't know how pregnant Kelly Bright is at this stage in the story, but yeah, that is coming at some point. I think it's, we've also got to address the fact that obviously Mick's anxiety is always going to be there, and every single time Mick has a panic attack, it's the most dramatic type of panic attack you could possibly have, where he collapses to the floor and nearly has a heart attack and all of that sort of thing. So I'm sure we've got another one of those coming. I don't know, with the Carters, it's sort of... The thing about Nancy, though, so she's now working at the gym. Are her and Zack building up a bit, or do you reckon that they're sort of falling apart, or is there a Peter thing going on, because Peter seems to be interested in Nancy now as well? It's like any storyline. So what are you
do you think there's going to be like a rivalry? Probably. Yeah, I feel like there's going to be a rivalry story between Zack and Peter. Ultimately, in my mind, Zack should win because Peter is just a drip. And also, isn't Peter meant to be with Ash? Like, he made such a ring around trying to get Ash, like breaking up Ash. And and they've not done anything since Ash got her job back. So presumably Peter's grown tired of Ash now.
Oh, you got your job back. Oh, I don't care then. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Oh, you've broken up with Iqra. Oh, I don't care anymore. I'm not interested. You know?
Well, this isn't fun now.
No. Yeah. I mean, to be fair, Peter was flirting with all of his clients this week as well. It's like, see you next week. See if I make you look more pretty than you already are. And it's like, oh, nice one, Peter. Nice.
Yeah. Nice. I should take some leaf out of Peter's book, I think. Seems to work for him. Just flirt with everybody. Absolutely everybody.
Does it work for him? Because he seems to get the blowout by most of the women. Even the woman he said that to was kind of like,
I mean,
and just walked off. Like...
He's slept with his girlfriend and his girlfriend's mum in quite quick succession. So I mean, I don't particularly want to sleep with boys. I can't think of anybody that I want to sleep with, including their dad. But I'm only 33. Who knows?
I mean, I wouldn't. That's the thing, isn't it? That's not been brought up for a long time either. The whole Ash,
not at all.
Iqra, mum and daughter sleeping with one boy,
which is a shame.
I feel like they've just given up on it.
Well, it's a shame because it was that mad a moment. You sort of think this has got to come out at some point, surely. They gave us a few little sort of, like, we're talking months ago in the past here, but they gave us a few little sort of sneakettes of, Suki about to reveal everything. Because it feels like Suki's the sort of person that would, wait for a big moment to reveal it. So, like, I don't know, if they get engaged or at a wedding or something crazy like that. So maybe in the future that bomb is still waiting to go off. But I hope they haven't forgotten about it because it was mad and I need Peter to be slapped in the face for it. So... We'll see.
Yeah, 100%. But yeah, no. So going back to the initial thought, I think it's going to be a Zack and Peter rivalry to try to get Nancy, which I look forward to because I really love the character of Zack. Actually, properly grown on me big time. I mean, I didn't dislike him, but he just had a really. He had a really auspicious start, but like he's really grown into the soap, and he's really he's like got into the other characters, like become friendly with other characters really organically, really while other new characters that join the soap hasn't at all.
No.
But we'll talk about Zack later on because actually he had a bit of involvement with Jean as well. But talking of Jean, let's talk about Mo's leaving then. Mo has left forever, other than a few guest appearances every now and then, because the actress has decided to up sticks and move to Spain. Good a time as any, I feel, during a pandemic. Why not? I actually didn't mind her leaving or her exit. I thought it was very Mo. It was like a bit silly, a bit crazy.
Yeah.
There had to be some kind of link that she was doing something dodgy related to it, even though it was kind of almost thrown in without any prior knowledge to it. It was almost like they didn't know that the actress wanted to leave, and so they quickly wrote Big Mo out of this, the story, the square straight away.
I mean, to be fair, Mo, we all love Mo. Mo's a great character. She's been in it for years, and she's sort of been there through some tricky periods for her character. I remember there was a time when it was said that she was basically being demoted to background character, and she was destined to have about as many lines as Tracy gets and all of that sort of thing. So she's sort of been back, she's been up and down with it. But I feel at the same time she's not exactly a difficult character to get rid of, is she? She's there, she's connected with the Slaters, but it's not like she's got like her fingers in many pies around the square, so it's quite easy to get rid of, a fat cruise with Elvis. No, a cruise with fat Elvis. It's got big fat cruise. I'm sure that's a show on Channel 4. It's quite easy to sort of send her off on something like that. So, and I wish her well. It was nice to see. I don't know I'm not quite sure why she went off in a limousine, but why the hell wouldn't she? It's Mo, like you say. It's the sort of crazy mad exit that you sort of expect from her. Will we ever see her again? Is the question. Like, presumably it's just the sort of thing where she'll come back for weddings and maybe an Aunt Sal type role and all of that sort of thing. But are we ever going to see Mo again? What do you think?
Well, that's what the producers have said, that she's going to be written in every now and then. And so Lila Morse, I think, is a knowledge of, because it was her decision to leave. It wasn't the program makers. She decided to leave. She did, jokes aside, she did want to kind of retire and live in Spain, in a nice little rental, or whatever she's planning to do for retirement. I mean. Yeah, yeah. I mean, bless her. Good luck to her. Sounds lovely. But I think the producers have left the doors open, not to come back as a main character, but just to come back as a kind of incidental, kind of coming in and out, as you say, for weddings, funerals, for maybe some big event in the future. And so I don't see an off-screen death happening anytime soon for Big Mo, which is fine. I mean, I've had my ups and downs with the character of Big Mo. There's been times when I've absolutely adored her. There's been times when I've just thought, oh, what's the point of her? But when I kind of got, especially with the since her return, when she pretended the cat was dead, to up until now, I kind of got what Mo is. And that is, she is just a bit of a silly background character. And that's no disrespect to her, but she's never really had a huge story. She's always been kind of like, the one in the Slater family that kind of is there, and so if there was a problem in the Slater family, she's there to not necessarily talk to, but kind of almost build up the hysteria, because she's not really one to be very quiet or very calm about a situation, as it was this week when the police were knocking on her door and she was just going nuts because she thought that the police had found out, and so she was trying to find every way to dodge the police. So yet another credit to the Walford Police Service and Jack and Callum, that they can't. Yeah, someone on their own doorstep they can't seem to catch.
Honestly,
for questioning.
It amazes me that the residents of Walford ever sleep, because you can't say that. Oh, I sleep better at night knowing that you're proud in the streets. Yeah, for sure. Yes. So Mo's up sticks and gone. We wish her well and hope we see her again soon. However, she did leave. What would we call it? A gift for Jean of all people, and that's
an adventure. Jean called it an adventure.
Well, yeah. And an adventure it certainly is for her and for us. Because she now has, on behalf of Mo and Fat Elvis, we believe, an entire garage full of cannabis plants to deal with, completely out of the blue. We sort of, literally on Mo's last episode, she's sort of looking a bit dodgy outside the garage. And then Jean's like, what are you doing? Nothing. I'm just packing. I'm trying to find my sunglasses and all that sort of thing. And then by the end of the episode, we go into the garage and we've literally got, she's somehow managed to fit in literally an entire rainforest full of cannabis plants. All small juvenile plants that, again, fitted in with like all these sort of like UV lighting and all that sort of thing that you apparently need to keep these things alive and all of this sort of thing. I mean, my big question is how... it's all very well it being there. That I can just about deal with. How did you get all that in without anybody noticing? Seriously, like an entire forest
in the cover of darkness,
plants, and all the lighting that goes with it as well. What? That does where? Why? How?
It must have been in the cover of darkness. Mo must have been like sneaking down the stairs. Like, you're right. It's just huge. I mean, obviously they don't start. I'm pure as you say, they're driven snow,
Obviously,
so I wouldn't know any of these details.
I had no idea. I thought she was just keeping a nice greenhouse full of little plants in there. I didn't realise what was going on until Jean's famous and now infamous "I don't want to be a drug lord" line sort of came out of nowhere. Can I just say, when we were talking like last week, and we got Monday stuff, and it was all quite solemn and serious, with the FGM story and all that sort of thing. I was like, yeah, this is going to be a strong week. I confidently can say that I did not predict that Friday's Duff would be the line "I don't want to be a drug lord" said by Jean, illuminated by the red fluorescent lighting of cannabis plants. I didn't see that coming, to be fair.
Well, to be fair, that was actually earlier in the week, because then later in the week she asked Zack for help, because that's who she says it to, Zack, and then she asks Zack for help. But then after having a conversation with Honey, who gets really frustrated because Suki's been leaving spinach in the dark, and spinach rocket, and it will wilt. It wilts in dark places. Jean was like, aha! I don't need Zack's help to sell these drugs anymore because I don't want to be a drug dealer. I don't need it. She said it about 3 more times on the Friday's episode
I definitely don't want to be a drug
to
dealer,
Zack.
no.
And so she's realised something which is surely agriculture 101, that if you just turn off the watering the plants and take off the UV lights or any light to help the plant grow, it will eventually wilt and die. So Jean's plan is a very long-term plan, which is that she's going to let them just naturally die. Yeah, I know. See, I genuinely thought this was going to be a story that was leading to actually a kind of Breaking Bad.
Yeah, some sort of Walter White reference.
But not to make money for like medical treatment, because thank goodness we live in the United Kingdom, we have a beautiful thing called the NHS, but to actually like smoke it for herself, and make herself feel better because she's feeling more and more ill over time. Because we had the CBD oil, didn't we, a couple of weeks ago, that Jean was like, CBD oil, that sounds interesting, maybe I should try it, to Mo's advice. I mean, now I'm talking about it, we should have seen all the signs that Mo was growing cannabis, because she recommended CBD oil. And so I thought that maybe Jean would then consider smoking it herself as she became more and more ill, because although we still don't have the 100% confirmation that she is sick with cancer, we're believing that she is sick with cancer. And so because she's going to become more and more ill, I thought that maybe she would start smoking the cannabis. I mean, if we're not out of the realms of that happening, but because she's taking such a long route to get rid of it. But what do you think? Do you think there's more to come? Is it just going to be a clean cut case?
I would say that we're not beyond the realms of anything, to be fair. I don't understand what her plan is. So, like, Jean does this now and again. This isn't the first time that she's done this, where she will be given a very easy solution to something that will end her problem pretty quickly. It's a little bit of a dubious sort of solution, but it will end the problem there and then. But she will refuse that option and go with something that will cause her much more issues by keeping these things in the garage for months and months and months until they die. And then she's got to work out how she's going to get rid of them. When in fact, all she had to do was just say to Zack, I'll tell you what, you take the money. I don't want the money. I don't want to have anything to do with these things. I don't mind. You take them. You deal with it. There's the key to the garage. Off you trot. That's all she needed to do. And Zack could have taken the money and been quite happy, and all these wee plants would have been gone. Problem solved. But no. Jean's plan is... I don't even know what Jean's plan is. Just to sort of let these things wilt, and then she's got an entire forest of cannabis plants to get rid of, and all the lighting and all that sort of thing. I don't understand.
But
I don't understand why.
That's exactly her plan.
And why?
But I don't know. But I think Jean, to be fair to Jean, it's not out of character for her to be a little bit jump to an idea and then cling to it and think it's the right idea. And Jean is a very innocent woman, and you know she does want to do the right thing. So I get it. I get why they've kind of written this in for Jean. But like you say, I can't see this being a solution to her problem. So then what is going to be the solution down the road? Does she in the end just conceive? She concedes.
You're on form today. Wow.
Or is she going to start smoking? Is she? I don't know. I kind of want to see, because I do like the last time we saw Jean kind of, stop taking her medicine. Let's just say when she was in the caravan and she started taking up smoking, and old Claudia Winkleman Lily had hid in a box looking like Wallace and Gromit, and kind of snuck in. I liked that Jean a little bit, and I would like to see, even if it's just for one episode, stoned Jean. Is that wrong with me to feel that way?
Well, you want to see stoned Jean? No, I can totally understand it. I forget that Jean used to smoke, to be fair. Like, when Jean first came in, she chain smoked. I did forget about that. So, yeah, I don't think it's beyond the realms of possibility for us to suddenly open one episode with Jean rolling a 6-foot joint. That Zack's taught her how to roll joints and all of this sort of thing, and she's nailing a blunt, or a bong or something like that. We've seen Pam St. Clement do it on ITV. I don't know if you saw it. I know the terms, mate. I'm street. I
did watch that documentary series.
That was the best documentary series I've ever seen in my entire life. The image of Pat Butcher getting... honestly, if you haven't seen... probably US viewers, if you haven't seen a series on ITV called Gone to Pot, which basically followed a load of celebrities going around America, like into places where cannabis was illegal... you ain't seen nothing. I tell you, you haven't lived. The sight of Pam St. Clement, aka Pat Butcher, not only getting stoned with nuns, but, you know, sort of nailing bongs in cafes and giggling like mad and all this sort of thing. It is a sight to behold. Anyway.
The golden age of television.
Oh, bring those days back. Anyway, so yes, I mean, probably. I mean, there does seem to be a sort of theme of medicinal cannabis is a good thing going on in EastEnders at the moment, because we've got it with Nancy, and there was somewhere else that it was mentioned as well, isn't there? The CBD oil thing. So it's. I mean, I'm not arguing whether CBD oil is a good. Is, you know, if it stops people from feeling pain, I'm all for it. You know, but presumably that is where it's going down the medicinal route, I am assuming. But then it all sort of boils down to whether Jean actually has cancer or not. We are still.
This is it, isn't it?
We are in June now. Jean discovered this lump in December, and we are still absolutely, and neither is Jean, none the wiser as to whether it was actually cancer or not. We haven't got a clue. So I can't.
The thing is that we're getting to a point where the thing is that we're getting to a point now where it could actually be too late if Jean does get convinced to have it checked and it is cancer. Yeah. They're getting to that point now where it would. I mean, this is modern era EastEnders at the moment, so I suppose again it's not out of the realms of possibility for them to just kind of just rewrite medical history, have her like cured, you know, even though it's been like over a year since she like found the lump. But I mean, they're getting dangerously close to a point where there is no return for Jean's character, and so then they can't do anything else. But yeah. I mean, the longer it goes on, I feel like she hasn't got it. She can't have, because we've seen we've seen a couple of times where, you know, she's gone, like a stomach hurted last week when she had prunes, you know, and all that sort of thing. Like, we've had a couple of little moments, but surely 6 months down the line, she'd be in a lot more pain than she currently seems to be. So this is what I mean. We've got too far now.
Yeah, she hasn't got it, clearly. But then, why the hell is there is the Amazon rainforest in her garage? What is it for? So I don't know. We'll see. We will see. I was sort. I think the word I'm looking for is baffled and bemused by this whole sort of weed plant story. I don't know where it's going. I could not even begin to predict where this story is going. I'm just going to sit back and enjoy the high.
Yeah, we really are. Last story then, and of course it's pretty much a lot of stories kind of bobbling up here and there, and it's all related to the Mitchells.
Ben and Callum are back from their honeymoon this week, and immediately we start to see that all is not well in the world of Ballum. Because see, now I'm of the mind that Ben is an arsehole this week, in all honesty, because he walks in and sees Callum having a coffee with one of his work colleagues who's just started and is, you know, trying to give him the lay of the land and all that sort of thing, and immediately sort of becomes what are you doing? Like, why are you not with me and all that? He just becomes really stroppy and like quite possessive almost, and and to be honest, a little bit controlling, because by the end of the week he has decided, after a conversation with Kira, that he doesn't like Callum being a policeman anymore, and he doesn't like all the secrets that apparently Callum is keeping from him. And he, by the end of the week, is asking is asking Callum to quit the police. I'm not being funny, all right? And I don't think this is an extreme thing to say at all, actually. I was about to apologise and say that this might sound a bit extreme, but actually, I don't care. The whole thing of, if they hadn't just finished a domestic violence storyline, I would be thinking that this was going down the coercive control route, in all honesty, because getting him to quit his job so that he can keep an eye on him and getting all stroppy when he's with his friend and his colleagues and just trying to basically control all the aspects of his life, it fits Ben's character quite well, because I can imagine that everything that Ben has gone through would turn him into quite a difficult boyfriend, to say the least. But again, it's just one of those examples that says to me why Ben and Callum clearly don't work together as a couple, because they have completely different lives, and he knows how much Callum wants to be a policeman, and he has made absolutely zero effort to, lower his own crime rate or anything like that. He expects Callum to just turn a blind eye to all of his own criminal activities, and then turns around to him and goes, "Actually, no, I don't want you to be a policeman anymore. I want you to stay at home so I can get, and so I can watch you all the time." What the hell?
Yeah. Ben agrees with you, actually, because Ben had said something very similar, and a few people said, well, Callum has asked Ben to do the same thing, so really it's just tit for tat, and so they're just kind of doing, just kind of doing the same. But this is but saying it's just tit for tat, to say that, Callum's already asked Ben to do the same thing, so it's absolutely within Ben's right to ask Callum to do, to quit the police force. It's absolutely fair. It just goes back to what I say every time we talk about a Ben and Callum storyline, which, incidentally, may I remind everyone, they've been married for 2 weeks. They don't trust each other. They have a fallout. The other one then says, "Why don't you trust me anymore?" The other one says, "Oh, I'm sorry, I should have trusted you." They get back together again. They say, "Oh, I do respect you now," blah, 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 blah. And then that's their story for another 2-3 weeks. And again, we'll just go through the same cycle again and again and again and again. The Ballum story is literally just them having fallouts over the same thing every time. And it's a little bit different this time because Ben now has taken the side of Callum over his father. So now he's a little bit more of a stranger or a bit more alone in the situation now. He did at first have his dad to back him up or to look after him. He had his family behind him, but he's kind of pulled away from his dad now. And now he's relying very heavily on Callum and Stuart and the highways to kind of be his family now. And so he doesn't have, and so there's an argument there that might be where his insecurities are kicking in because now he doesn't have that security blanket of his dad any further. But still, it's just the same story all the time, and this is why I cannot get on board with them. Why can't they just have a nice? When Ben and Callum first got together, I actually really enjoyed their relationship because it was a nice relationship and it was new to have this gay relationship, which was they got together in a crash because Ben discovered that Callum's secret, and it was a nice story, and they just seem to have just constantly just unravel all the time, and I don't know, I just find it really the same. I mean, and I know it's going to get a lot of hate from people for saying it, but
I mean, to be honest, I think what it is illustrating is that Phil and Ben really aren't that dissimilar, because this isn't a million miles away from how Phil has treated his partners over the years. Sort of how trying to have that control over them, and sort of, and the same even with Grant. It's a very male Mitchell thing to do. We're also led to believe that Eric Mitchell was exactly the same with Peggy, and Grant was the same with Tiffany, and all. Do you know what I mean? It's a very sort of Mitchell thing to do. So in that respect, it's actually quite. Historically, it does work, but it's just frustrating to watch because we are supposed to clearly be absolutely in love with them as a couple, whereas they give us reason upon reason upon reason as to why they don't work together. It makes them, and we are going to be, and I know for a fact we are going to be completely inundated with people saying that we're being harsh about Ballum and that they are meant to be together and that they are love's young dream and they are what we should all aspire to be and all this kind of stuff, which, that's totally your opinion. But please explain to us then why it's okay for Ben to be acting the way he is. And frankly, the way he has acted with Callum for the majority of their relationship. It doesn't make any sense to me. So, I don't know, we'll see. So do you think that Callum is going to quit the police?
Oh, God, no. But I think it will continue with Ben's jealousy of anything or anyone who touches or talks to Callum in any way. Anything touches Callum's life, it's going to be just Ben's jealousy thing, because this is like I say, this is the story before, this is the story present, this is the story going forth, and it's always going to be that story with Ballum. And I would love them to do something. Maybe they could adopt a child. Not that I think they should be throwing a child, although they got Lexi, haven't they? I keep forgetting that Ben and Callum have Lexi.
Don't give them a baby, because then Callum will have 2 children to look after. Let's be perfectly frank.
But please, honestly, like I say, when Ballum first started, I really liked the story. I was on board with it. I loved the way they got together. Actually, I loved the "I smell queer" and Callum running into the square and the kind of the build up onto that. Oh, really? I liked all that. I liked all of the build up onto that.
I cannot tell you how much I despise that "I smell queer" line. It literally
really.
I hated it. It made me absolutely cringe Because, I mean, I don't... It honestly, I just thought it was a really kind of distasteful sort of, like, vile line that made Ben sound like some sort... Like, for a second, he started sniffing him, and then turned around, and then said, you know, queer for me, I know that queer is sort of... I mean, we're going into a whole debate here, but for me, I know that queer has sort of been... The meaning of the word has sort of been taken back by gay people these days, and it's meant to be quite a positive thing. I come from a generation where the word queer was used in a negative sense, and was used at me in a negative sense. So for me, the whole sort of "I smell queer" line felt just really sort of. I personally didn't like it, and from that point onwards, it's sort of. You know, Ben and Callum. Yes, I could see. For me, the thing is with Ben and Callum, and I've said this before, possibly before I joined the podcast, that the reason that Ben and Callum have worked is because it's two young gay guys that are kissing a lot on screen. Whereas the whole point of the story, which was Callum's sexuality confusion, was something that we basically didn't deal with. It was like they wanted to get to the Ben and Callum kissing scene as quickly as they could. Up to the episode where we realised that Callum was having problems with his sexuality, who was confused about his sexuality. We had zero clue up to that point, you know, because he'd been up with Whitney and all that sort of thing. We found out that Callum was gay on the Friday, and he was snogging Ben by the end of the next Friday. That was it. And then we went into the whole sort of Ballum, Ben and Callum Whitney wedding thing, which was great. I loved all of that sort of thing. Don't get me wrong. Yeah. And Whitney finding out about it, that was all really well done. I'm not saying I ever hated Ballum. Does Ballum stuff right from the moment of its inception. But, for me, Callum and Ben were, frankly, put together for the wrong reasons. Something about, you know, the struggle of sexuality is something that affects a lot of people. You know, you only need to look at the Mila stuff for that, ignoring the FGM side of things. You know, this is someone who has tried to hide her sexuality and all that sort of thing because of her family and all that sort of thing. The whole, you know, Ben first coming out, that's how you do a sexuality story. You know, the years and years and years of him battling with Phil, ignoring the fact now that Phil is like would quite happily walk down the street holding a pride flag these days. You know, but that's how you do a sexuality story. Yeah, exactly. Like, you know, going for denial and all that sort of thing. Whereas the Ben and Callum thing was sort of, we need a gay couple, and we need a hot gay couple just to sort of get a hashtag going, get a name going, and all that sort of thing, and that's why they're a thing. And what you're then left with is two characters that are completely different and want different things out of life. Now, it's not a problem to sort of see those two kind of deal with those problems, but I don't want to watch Ben completely and utterly, you know, wreck Callum's dreams, because he dreamed of being a police officer. Otherwise, he, you know, that.
I get your point, and I agree with you on some of the things. I actually thought that the journey for Callum's his sexuality was fine, and I know it was a bit out of the blue because there was never any indication, and for the first year or so of Callum being on screen, he was chasing Whitney the whole time, so it kind of felt a bit strange, like, he's actually gay. But the way they dealt with it, actually, I didn't mind at all.
I didn't have an issue with Callum being gay. That's not what I'm saying. That was, you know, I can actually totally see how this guy in the army, and I did, you know, I proper felt for him with the feeling of like he went through the army, was surrounded by all these men and was feeling all these feelings and had this thing with this guy in the army and all that sort of, that I totally bought. For me, what the issue was the fact that we've discovered that on the first Friday, and by the end of the second Friday, he was snogging Ben in a park. To me, there should have been a longer gap. There should have been a longer gap between them, because I remember at the time the gay bar was just opening, and I thought that at the very least they would save it until, you know, they'd save it until some big event at the gay bar and all that sort of, or even Pride. That would have been a great day for Callum and Ben to have their first kiss, you know.
But Callum didn't come out to anyone until after their first kiss, did they? So even though he had kissed Ben, he obviously knew his sexuality before that, but then it was a long time, because then they had the Pride episodes and going on, didn't they?
But for us,
so his coming out was longer than perhaps. Yeah, no, I get that. But then that's not too surprising, because we're meant to know. This is why the whole Gene thing is a bit strange, because we don't know. Gene doesn't know. No one knows whether Gene's got cancer or not. We're kind of meant to know, aren't we? Meant to know, unless it's like a mystery of who shot Phil or something like that. Aren't we meant to know, like, these little intricacies of the story? So weren't we meant to know that Callum was gay, and then we watched the journey of him trying to come out in front of these other characters?
Yeah,
does that not seem...
Again, no, I know what you mean, but it's just the. I mean, it's a thing of, you know, current EastEnders and even current soaps. To be fair, just the speed of it. You know, it's just like we need to get to the big points as quickly as we can without the sort of intricacies that get you from point A to point B. Like, never mind the journey, we'll just get from point A to point B within a week. You know, the sort of thing that a few years ago we would have taken a few months to tell. Nowadays it's like we'll take a few episodes to tell that. All of this is basically boiled down from the fact that I still went into a whole direct and tangent that I wasn't expecting. But the whole point of that is what we're left with now is a couple that it's debatable whether they're still working because they are so different. For me, it boils down from that. That's basically where I was coming from for the whole time.
Yeah, I see. I understand. And I think the thing is Callum spots that they are so different and they're quite destructive for each other. Oh, sorry, no, Ben, this is another thing that kind of confuses me about the Ben jealousy thing, because Ben noticed just before the wedding that, you know, he was being quite destructive in Callum's life, that he's kind of ruined him. He used to be this nice, soft little guy and now he's not so much anymore. And yet he's still trying to dominate Callum, as we saw this week, because he then tried to push his agenda onto Callum. So what is it for Ben? Is it that Ben doesn't want to dictate Callum's life and let him kind of lead his own way? Or is it that Ben does want to dictate Callum's life in his own way? Is it, like I say, for me, this story is always that Ballum's story is that they fall out, get back together again, everything's fine, fall out, get back together again. And it's just a constant stream of that all the time. And it normally boils down to one's jealous of the other, or one knows something that the other has done and they're not very pleased that they've done it. I mean, at least in the background, it's bubbling along that Phil is really angry at Callum and he's still not giving up on the grass just yet. So, you know, we got that. Let's talk about Phil, actually. Let's talk about Phil and Kat. Because Phil stood in as Bert and Ernie's dad this week at was it Daddy Day or something at the community centre? And he was all thrusted in and really excited and ready to be Bert and Ernie's dad. Like, he was telling Kat, I can't wait to be their dad. This, that. It was sweet. But then as soon as he got there, Raymond walked in with Jack, who he claimed to be Raymond's dad. And it was like a switch for Phil. And instantly he was like, oh, actually, Bert and Ernie, I don't want anything to do with them. I want my real son. I want my blood son back. Yeah, I want Raymond. Which I thought was really good, actually.
Yeah, I did again, it's just another, Phil and Kat are just working for me at the minute. And every part of me is screaming, this shouldn't be working, but it really is. I absolutely love them on screen together. I gotta say, I really love, this is the example of something that the time that they're taking with this relationship and really sort of exploring their feelings for each other. Both of them still seem quite stunned by the fact that they've gotten to this point. And Phil wanting to make the effort with all the boys, to be fair, we've spoken about Phil and his desire to play football with a son type character, before. So he's in second heaven right now because Kat's got a plethora of kids that he can play football with. But it was quite
their own
sweet.
Football team.
They have, yeah. It was quite sweet to sort of see him go to this sort of event run by this woman that looked like she was in The Sound of Music, pleated light shirt and looked like a librarian, and was sort of trying to talk to the children, have a lovely day and all this sort of thing. And then you've got Zack, and then you've got Jack, who is literally standing there playing the most bizarre game of make-believe with the children that I've ever seen. This one of the kids literally staring up at Zack in admiration, staring up at Jack in admiration, almost like, I love you, policeman Jack. Talking about like how it was really weird. But then Jack's getting all smug and like looking at Phil going, oh yeah, why don't you explain what you do for a living, Phil? And he's kind of like, I'm a businessman. And then goes to Denise. I thought Denise was a bit harsh, to be fair, because I think this is actually the most effort that we've ever seen Phil put into kids. Like, he's really paternal these days. So for Denise to sort of throw it all back in his face when Phil, I think, is genuinely making an effort, trying to make an effort with Raymond, especially when you've got Jack sort of goading him and sort of taking the mickey and all of this sort of thing. I think Denise is being a bit unfair. But then at the same time, Kat doesn't, because we should mention the fact that Kat had a socially distanced mugging this week, where two guys literally turned up on a motorbike, didn't go anywhere near her, for obvious reasons. She was like passing her bag across. All she needed to do was like, go on then, come closer. Now you daren't, do you? And then just run away. That would have been alright. She could have managed that.
Yeah, just step one more metre back and they could have done nothing about it. They'd been like, oh, can't reach. Oh, damn it.
So she did you wait till after lockdown. Yeah, which,
I felt sorry for Kat actually in that scene because she was clearly visibly very shocked and upset by it, and Phil didn't seem to care because Phil, it was after the daddy day in the community centre and Phil had pretty much given up on trying to be civil with anyone, including Kat's kids. And then when Kat went there expecting him to be, a bit understanding for what had happened, he just didn't seem to care. So again, we kind of get to the crux of the matter, which is that at the end of the day, as much as Phil says, like, I want this relationship. Yeah, it's all talk with Phil. He says he wants this relationship with Kat, and that he'll look after the kids. Really, he just wants his son Raymond.
He wants
and Kat has kind of encouraged him. Well, yeah, and Kat has encouraged him, as you said this week, by saying, you should get to know Raymond more. You should let Denise let him into your life a bit more. And he just seemed like, oh no, it's fine. But as soon as he saw Raymond, he then was instantly like, oh no, actually, it's not fine, is it? I do actually want my son in my life. But I worry about what's going to happen to that pure, sweet Raymond, because he's such a cute little boy, and he can run in like going into the community centre, and all it's going to take is 1 week with Phil Mitchell, and he's going to be trafficking people. He's going to be starting relationships. He's going to be
drug dealing,
angry at everyone.
Yeah,
drug dealing, exactly. And I in a way, I don't want Phil to get his hands on Raymond. I just want Raymond to be this sweet kid forever.
Yeah. It's going to be interesting to see, because I mean, maybe what they were doing this week, more than anything, was sort of re-sowing, I should say, the seeds of rivalry between Jack and Phil, which we haven't seen for a little while. So I think maybe that's the next step of the Raymond and Phil stuff, because I actually was starting to wonder, are they ever going to address the Phil and Raymond and Denise thing ever again? Because because it's been a good few months since we've had any mention of that whatsoever. So I think that that's maybe the logical direction for it to go in next. I can't see why Jack would. This is the thing. For Jack, I think it's more about Denise and sort of being possessive over Denise, whereas Phil literally couldn't care less about Denise. He just wants Raymond. And if in an ideal world, what he will have is Raymond and Tommy and Bill and Ernie, Bert and Ernie, and all the kids just in one happy family, and Kat just being the dutiful wife and making him sandwiches and all that sort of thing. I imagine is Phil's ultimate aim.
Yeah, it's what he's always tried, really, isn't it? He's always tried to have this basically dutiful woman who will look after him, and have his litter piled around him, all sat on their knees, looking at Phil like, "Daddy, you're amazing. Can we do some gangstery stuff with you today? We really want to see some shenanigans
or football."
And it's not really worked out for him very much. Yeah, or football. It's not really worked out for him, has it? And now he's lost Ben, I suppose. Yeah, Raymond is now Ben's replacement. I mean, he hasn't lost Ben, has he? Let's be honest. He's going to he's going to forgive Callum at some point, because that's going to be the only way that Ben forgives Phil, and this vicious circle that's created between them. But like you say, I think it's interesting, this relationship where like Jack and Phil, it's they don't like each other. They've had a lot of run-ins, and and I think Jack's got the one thing he wants, and he doesn't like it very much. And so, what Phil's like, he's the kid who wants to, like, he's the playground who basically punches you and steals your lunch money. That's Phil Mitchell. And so that's his plan, I think.
There you go. So we will see where it all goes next week.
Anyway, we need to have a little chat now about some news that came out about the cancellation of Holby City and what that means for the landscape of soap or BBC in general. And we're going to discuss it right now on I Ain't Want to Gossip.
You know me, I ain't want to gossip.
So, on a special I Ain't Want to Gossip this week, we're going to have a little chat about the news that came out this week of Holby City, which is a soap that is, well, I say soap, it's a serial drama because it's only on once a week on the BBC. And it's a spin-off of a programme that's been going for a longer called Casualty. And it basically, Casualty is the casualty, the A&E unit in the hospital, and Holby City is the actual hospital. Yes. Just for any viewers who's never watched it or outside the UK perhaps can't get it. So Holby City's been going for quite a while. I think it's been going for 25 years, quite a stint.
Holby City's been going for 23 years, yeah.
Oh, 23 years. So it's been, it's had a long run. And this week it's been announced that it's going to be cancelled and it's going to stop being broadcast from spring next year. Now, this is followed on from the news that came out about 2 months ago or a month ago. And I think we did discuss it very briefly on the podcast, where the BBC has been told for their new charter, because they get a charter from the government of kind of what remit they need to do to carry on getting a license fee. It's all great fun for them. And they've been told that they have to start making programming which is less London centric and more outside the greater United Kingdom. And one of the suggestions for that is that they have to make programming 2 new soaps or 2 new serial dramas, which is based outside of London. Now, Holby City is a London soap that's based and filmed in London. So it made some sense that had been axed completely. But obviously, the rumours start throwing out there where people are saying like, oh, Holby City, this is the first nail in the coffin. It's next up, it's going to be EastEnders. A lot of people have also been saying the same about ITV, about maybe getting rid of Emmerdale, and then, Coronation Street. I mean, where do we go from here? Because it's a very... Are we jumping the gun a bit too quickly here? Is it just that because they have to make programming outside of London, that's the reason they made that decision, and it was quite a natural selection to have Holby to be the one that they stopped making?
I think, there's a few things to pick apart. I think for a start, what we always need to do when we're looking at stories that are going in the media is sort of take a few of the explanations that come our way with a pinch of salt, because what we basically need to always remember is that top of the charter on anything is ratings. And if fewer people are watching an expensive show, then that show isn't going to be around for much longer. And the simple fact of the matter is Holby's ratings haven't been that great for a number of years. The question is, yes, the Casualty and Holby City are basically 2 soaps based in the same hospital. Do you need 2 shows filmed in the same hospital in the grand scheme of things? The BBC also needs to save money. So again, 2 shows basically set in the same hospital. Is that money efficient? I think the idea of... Because a lot of the things that are being said about Holby City at the minute is the fact that the idea is that they're going to scrap it and replace it with some northern soap that apparently is going to rival Coronation Street. I do not believe for a second that there is anybody worth their salt at the BBC that thinks for a moment so that they are going to be able to create a soap opera in the current TV landscape that is going to take on Coronation Street. Nobody, I think, is saying that whatsoever. Surely to God. Because not even Coronation Street's doing that great these days. So why would you think that, oh, I know, we'll create another soap. That'll solve all our problems. That's, the soap genre as a whole isn't doing a great deal at the moment. Soaps aren't what they were. Soaps aren't as popular as they once were. So... That's all that. I think the main issue we've got is the fact that Portavood, Kadimi, was axed from EastEnders. I mean, he got a new job at Holby City and then that show was axed. That's a bit mean and unfair, I think. So, bless him for that. I mean, that's the industry. Unfortunately, it's pretty cutthroat at times. And this is a pure example of that. I think the story of the idea that the cast only found out an hour before the general news broke that the show was being cancelled. If that's true, that's bang out of order, and frankly, I'd expect better from the BBC. But again, it's not unheard of in this industry for that sort of thing to go on. I don't know. I mean, it's just all about. I understand the representation side of things and all that sort of thing, but I think that's literally all it is: ratings and maybe the fact that they need to put the money elsewhere.
I mean, I agree with you. Ratings is important, but you have to remember that the BBC have been told on countless occasions that they shouldn't chase ratings. It's not about chasing ratings. It's about, making a programme that, is available to everyone. That's why they have a license fee and they have, like I say, they have the charter. I mean, anyone who's interested, basically, the BBC have to justify their license fee. I think it's every 10 years where they basically have a charter that's renewed by the current government. Unfortunately, the current government at this time is a party that doesn't necessarily believe that the BBC are such a great idea and should not be license feed anymore. And so they have in the past as well, constantly find more ways to kind of grind down the BBC and make it more and more less current but whilst at the same time saying you need to make sure that you are current. And it's personally it annoys me because I'm one of the people who wave a flag and think the BBC is a great constitution. It's envied by everyone around the world. And I'm happy to pay what is essentially the cost of a pint every week to get some fantastic news, documentaries, comedy, and all programming, and EastEnders, of course, for which we wouldn't have this podcast. And it just frustrates me when I hear a story where let me continue by saying that I don't watch Holby City. I've never really watched Holby City. I went through a phase of watching it for about 2-3 months when they did funnily enough, talking about Ben and Callum, they did a domestic violence story and coercion story with a gay couple. And I watched it and I thought it was done very well. I didn't think it was done badly at all. And I enjoyed watching it. But I don't particularly watch it on a regular basis. So I might be part of the problem. Maybe I should have watched it more to try to justify the program still being made. But I think that to say that in order for them to justify it is to then make a program, as you say, which is a soap that's based in the North, it's not only insulting to, I think, the program makers of Coronation Street, because they do make they've always represented the North for their soap. So there's no need to make another one for the BBC. I mean, why not? If it's true what they're saying, they have to make one that's representing. They've got a perfectly good studio unit, which they filmed Doctor Who in Wales. Why don't they make a Welsh soap? Or a place or part of the United Kingdom, which is particularly not looked at very much, is Northern Ireland. Make a Northern Irish soap. So if it's true that they're jump into doing a North of England soap, I think it's madness, and not a good choice. If it is actually the choice of the BBC to make a soap in the North of England. And as you say, soaps aren't a genre that works currently. They're just not working. Appointment television is a tricky subject right now, and other than big live events like The Masked Singer, which is doing big bucks for ITV, or Strictly Come Dancing that does very well for the BBC, I don't think appointment viewing is a thing anymore. And with the streaming and the fact that they're now moving EastEnders for 3 weeks to a streaming platform, I mean, it just goes to show that really, what is the future? What is the future for soaps, really? Is this?
Yeah, I think, to be honest, soaps, at the very least, their current form, are going to be drastically different, if not gone, in the next decade, to be fair. Which is a shame, because I have a great passion for the soap genre. I think it's still extremely relevant. Some of these issue-based stories that genuinely help people, that's never going to change. There's always going to be issues that need to be addressed in dramas that genuinely help people. But I think that, the thing is, if they're saying that this apparent new Northern drama is supposed to be the answer to Coronation Street, it's we need to remember that the answer to Coronation Street is EastEnders. That was the BBC's answer to the other soaps. EastEnders was the answer to Coronation Street and Emmerdale and Brookside when that was a big soap at the time as well. So, I think they need to be paying more attention to EastEnders and, making sure that that's okay before they start building up other serial dramas. But that's just my opinion as a fan of EastEnders who does a podcast about EastEnders, I think it's a shame about Holby, but again, like you say, I never really watched it. It doesn't mean that people didn't watch it. I understand actually from social media that Holby City had a small but extremely committed fan base, who are probably all extremely gutted at the moment that their favourite show has gone, as we will be one day, because the day will come when we're having this conversation about EastEnders, unfortunately. The one positive that I think EastEnders has got at the minute is that it's got a reportedly very expensive new set that they're not going to just waste. So I would argue that EastEnders has got a good few years left of it yet, if anything, just to justify the cost of a new set. So whoever signed off for that probably extended EastEnders' life for a good few years. But we'll, I suppose the future of, so I think, to be honest, it's a shame, but I think the future of soaps as a genre is quite bleak. So hopefully something, there's nothing to stop the soaps from picking themselves up again. To be honest, I think oversaturation has killed the soaps. You know, the ITV soaps, for example, being on 6 times a week is ridiculous because you cannot keep up a consistent quality throwing out 6 episodes a week and, you know, keeping it all going like that at all times. That's impossible. You could get a room together of the best writers and storylines that the world has ever seen, and they could not keep at a perfect quality of show going at that consistency for that long. You know, one thing in EastEnders' favour I always think is that they've never really gone overboard with the amount of episodes. They could maybe lose one, and it would keep the show at a fairly consistent quality. Yeah, I think they could probably lose at the very least move the Friday episode to another day. But who knows? But yeah, I mean they could probably lose one. Yeah, I think it's all about it's just from the writing perspective. You know, you've got to keep a soap is a story machine essentially. It's a huge machine that constantly has to keep going, and stories have to keep popping out of it all the time at all times. And eventually, a machine like that is going to run itself down, and you need to look at it and recharge it and change the interior cogs of it and all of that sort of thing. I think I'll stretch that analogy out as far as I can. But, you know, essentially it's something about the soaps I think has to give. And unfortunately, Holby City was apparently the thing that had to give. Where that leaves the other soaps, I think we'll be looking over their shoulders slightly. But we'll see what happens.
Yeah, see what goes on. I mean, I haven't asked you, but quickly, I don't think we've actually had a chat about it moving to iPlayer for 3 weeks over the European Cup Championship football thing. I'm sorry, I'm not into football, but that thing, you know, players in shorts. Why not? But how do you, just briefly, how do you feel about that? Because personally, I don't hate the idea.
It doesn't bother me, to be honest. I think that the whole point, basically, if you're going to look at it at face value, the idea is that they don't have to worry about viewers losing track of where the episodes are when they have to throw it all around the schedules to accommodate the Euros or possibly the Olympics when that comes around again.
Yeah.
It's basically an easy way of saying, right, all your week's episodes are there, ready for you to watch. And at the end of the day, that is the future of watching television. You know, streaming and all of that sort of thing. You know, TV dramas are being box setted and all that sort of thing. You know, the drama It's a Sin, me and you really enjoyed, and a lot of people really enjoyed. The majority of people binge watch that on 4OD. So that is the way that TV dramas are going to be enjoyed a lot. Are going to be enjoyed a lot in the future. So, you know, we can kick off about it, or we can kick off about the future rapidly approaching all we like the old people that we are. But nothing that we say or do is going to stop that. And unfortunately, the BBC has to keep an eye on, you know, viewing habits and all of that sort of thing. But for the minute, I would literally just say it's so that they don't lose episode viewers by throwing them all around the schedules and just making them easily accessible. But it is possibly also a trial for the future to see how box setting soap episodes works. But I would miss that appointment viewing for the soaps, but
right,
we'll see.
But it makes sense for the future. I mean, yeah, I'm looking forward to see how it works out. The only reservation I have is, do they really need to release it as a box set? Could they just not release it Monday at 7 p.m, Tuesday at 7 p.m? You know what I mean? So then it's still on a kind of a schedule, but you can watch it when you want to watch it. Because this also goes to a debate, which we maybe can have another day, of will the BBC completely drop it from their main channel? Will it move to BBC Three? Will it move to be an iPlayer only show? Yeah, that's when you need to start thinking what's going to happen with the show after that. But perhaps that's a debate for another I Ain't Want to Gossip. But I'll be genuinely fascinated to know what everyone thinks about like all this news, because there's been a lot of news about scheduling and programs being dropped and BBC license fee and all that kind of guffin. So do get in touch with us if you're watching us as we're on YouTube. Then comment below or just get in touch with us with all the details that Rob is now going to present to you.
You can contact us on Twitter, Instagram at Walford Weekly, and you can find us on Facebook at Walford Weekly Podcast. On YouTube, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and click the bell to get notifications about our spoiler videos. And you can listen to us on Apple, Podbean, Spotify, or any of your favourite podcast sites. Remember, we also have opened our Patreon. The website address is, Alex?
It's patreon.com/Walford Weekly. Did you know that, Rob?
No, I didn't. I forgot I didn't have that bit written down. But yes, that's where you can find to go to our Patreon. We would like to thank everybody that has supported us on the Patreon so far. It's been a great reaction, so thank you very much.
100%. And watch out for your name also at the end of the episode, just to say a big shout out and thank you for, throwing some change our way. We're really grateful. And it's made us being able to make this now a video podcast a more permanent thing. So, and you can see our lovely little mugs every week now.
I've got to find something to wear every week now. And I can't just present this in my pyjamas like I was doing previously. So I've got to put gel in my hair and make effort and all of that sort of thing. So thank you for that.
Jokes aside, Rob, you saying that, I thought the same thing last week. I thought, oh God, we're going to have to start wearing clothes every week now. I went to TK Maxx and literally bought about 3 t-shirts. So get ready for that fashion parade through the weeks.
Can't wait. I'm pulling out the denim shirt already. I mean, it's only week 2. God knows what I'll be wearing. In the past few weeks when we've been on video, I've worn a suit, and 2 shirts. What we're going to have to get to is the episode where I've worn the same outfit before. That's the Easter egg. If you watch for when we're wearing the same outfits in previous episodes. See if you can spot that. That's when we have to do our laundry.
I'm most looking forward to doing the Halloween episodes because I will be wearing a costume.
Well, you have to give me plenty of notice for that because I don't like to be outdone with costumes. I will sit here dressed as a pumpkin. I don't care. It will happen.
All right. Well,
and as
thanks
Alex
for joining.
said, you can contact us on. Not finished me lines, yes, Alex. And as Alex said earlier, you can contact us by email, robwalfordweekly@gmail.com or alexwalfordweekly@gmail.com. We will be back next week. We will see you, and you will see us then. Both me and Alex. Goodbye.